started with a simple text message. His girlfriend Tong just flat out told him she wanted to break up. He was already typing back, frantically asking what was wrong. The poor guy was just falling apart. He pleaded with her, saying he was serious about their relationship. But she just went on about the future they were supposed to have, a house, kids, a car, all while she was trying to leave him. He kept trying, even apologizing for not buying some expensive thing she wanted and promising to get it later. But his message never went through. She had already blocked him. His roommates tried to get his mind off it, asking if he wanted to join their game. But Chen Yuan just sat there, completely broken. It was like his whole world had just ended. His friends just watched the empty space where he'd been. They weren't even surprised anymore. One of them pointed out this was the 6th time she'd broken up with him this month alone. Turns out this whole thing had become a public show. People were outside watching and gossiping. They all knew Chen Yuan as the licking dog, the guy who'd been chasing Lin Shudong for 3 years. Lin Shudong looked down at him, not with pity but with pure annoyance. She told him to stop making a scene because everyone was watching. And there he was, literally on the ground begging. He held out her favorite food, promising he'd change. The crowd was just eating it up, whispering about how he'd worked 4 part-time jobs for that gift. And for what? To get dumped in front of everybody. But Lin Shudong just calmly explained that it wasn't about anger. Her ex-boyfriend had come back for her, and she decided he needed her more. Chen Yuan couldn't believe it. He yelled out the other guy's name, Huang Zhengkai, and asked what that made him. He tried to reason with her, reminding her that the guy was a scumbag who cheated. He'd even made her catch him in the act. That's when a fancy white car pulled right up to them. And sitting inside was Huang Zhengkai himself, looking like the king of the world. He just smirked and told her to get in. Without a second thought, Lin Shudong walked to the car. She told Chen Yuan they shouldn't meet again because she was afraid her new boyfriend would misunderstand. And just like that, they drove off, leaving him standing alone in the street. The food he bought for her was still in his hand. He walked over to a trash can and threw it all away. 3 years of his life gone. With nothing left, he just walked towards a nearby supermarket. He grabbed a bottle of water, trying to process what just happened. He couldn't understand why being genuine always led to betrayal. Was he really going to be a simp for his entire life? He crushed the bottle in his fist. Something inside him snapped. Right then and there, he made a promise. He was done being a simp. From now on, he was going to be a king. The moment he made that decision, a sound echoed in his head. A message popped up right in front of him, saying a system had found a match and was activating. A screen appeared showing his name and his pathetic personal wealth. But below that was another number, 90 trillion. The system called itself the Lick Dog system, and he realized this was his cheat. He was still trying to figure out what it all meant when he noticed the system screen was focused on a woman right in front of him. That's when she called him out, angrily asking if he was done being a creep. He completely panicked. The woman accused him of staring right at her chest. At the same time, the system gave him a full breakdown on her. Her name was Zu Leil, and her affection level towards him was a solid -50. The system laid out the rules. If he could get a girl's affection level above 95, the roles would completely flip. She would become the simp, not him. He couldn't believe it, 9 trillion, and it was all meant to be spent on women. The system confirmed it. A black card appeared loaded with 9 trillion. The catch, only women could use it. But here was the loophole. Whatever they spent, he would get 10% back as real cash for himself on top of other rewards. In that moment, something changed in his eyes. He realized this wasn't a curse. It was a business model. He looked at the girl who just called him a creep. She would be his first test. He walked up to her completely calm and said he'd cover whatever she was buying. A system window popped up immediately. The mission to counterattack Zu Leil had begun. The rewards weren't just money but also points to upgrade his body, strength, spirit, everything. Zu Leil just laughed at him. She thought he was just another broke guy trying to look rich to get her attention. Turns out this girl was famous. The other shoppers recognized her as Zu Leil, the beauty of the art department. They whispered that she was a pro at this, once getting a guy to spend 30,000 in just 3 sentences. They all figured our boy was about to get taken for a ride. Chen Yuan just smirked. He told her there was only one way to find out if he had the money. So this girl decided to put him on the spot. She held out her phone and announced that she was buying snacks for everyone in the store, asking if he could cover the bill. She was sure this was her moment. She figured this guy in cheap clothes was about to learn a very public lesson in embarrassment. Without even hesitating, Chen Yuan scanned her code. A second later, a notification popped up on her phone. 50,000, just like that. The other shoppers couldn't believe it. This dude just dropped 50,000 like it was pocket change. They all started wondering if this guy who looked totally broke was actually some hidden rich kid. To make it even crazier, our boy casually asked if 50,000 was enough. With everyone still in shock, he held out his own phone and asked if he could add her on WeChat. Zu Leil was completely thrown off. Her plan to humiliate him had backfired spectacularly. She just stared, wondering if she had totally misjudged this guy. That's when her expression changed. A little smile appeared. If he really had this kind of money, then things were about to get interesting. She moved in close, taking his phone. She told him adding him on WeChat was fine. But first, he had to go somewhere with her. She was thinking this was her chance to really take advantage of him. And just like that, they were standing in front of the most expensive shopping district in the city. She led him straight towards a high-end designer store. Hilariously, she tried to clarify that she wasn't a gold digger. She claimed she just wanted to see his sincerity and attitude. Chen Yuan just smirked. He could see right through her little game and thought this was getting interesting. He told her it was no problem and that she could pick whatever she liked. This was the perfect chance to use her as an experiment for his new licking dog system. Inside, she started trying on bags, but instead of asking Chen Yuan, she asked someone named Brother Zhengkai if it looked good on her. Our boy was completely confused. Who the hell was Brother Junkai? Turns out Zu Leil wasn't even talking to Chen Yuan. She was trying to get the attention of some other guy sitting on the couch. This had to be the Brother Junkai she mentioned. The guy was just glued to his phone, and that's when he said a name that stopped Chen Yuan cold, Shudong. The name hit him like a punch to the gut. Shudong, his ex-girlfriend, she was here. Zu Leil moved in close, clinging to his arm. Chen Yuan just looked at her and said sarcastically that it looked like he'd arrived at the wrong time. But then his expression changed completely. A wicked grin spread across his face as he corrected himself. No, he had arrived at the perfect time. Meanwhile, Zu Leil was already talking to one of the saleswomen. She asked if they still had the spring collection bag. The employee told her there was only one left in the entire store. The problem, she explained, was that another lady was currently trying it on. She pointed over to the couch where Brother Junkai was sitting with none other than Lin Shudong. That's when his ex looked over and saw him. She immediately thought to herself that this was the perfect chance to show this loser the difference between him and her new man. She turned to Brother Junkai holding up the bag. She reminded him that someone's birthday was coming up, clearly expecting him to buy it for her. But this guy wasn't having it. He looked up from his phone annoyed and asked what she was talking about. They had just celebrated her birthday. Lin Shudong wasn't giving up. She tried to argue that the birthday they celebrated was her lunar one and that her solar birthday was still coming up. Her new boyfriend just stared back, completely unimpressed. This clown actually started lecturing her. He told her he didn't like girls who were too materialistic and then asked if she only got with him for his money. She was completely stunned. He was embarrassing her in front of everyone, especially her ex. And that's when someone else made a move for the bag. With Zu Leil, she stepped right in and said that if they weren't going to buy it, she would. Without a word, Chen Yuan handed over his card and paid for it on the spot. Zu Leil's favorability instantly shot up by 20 points. Chen Yuan smirked. This was the true power of money. Just one bag had raised her favorability by a total of 60 points. He figured at this rate, it wouldn't take much more to completely win her. But there was a catch. The amount of cashback he got was still way too low. Meanwhile, one of the salesgirls whispered to her coworker, completely confused. She couldn't understand why the guy who looked rich was pinching pennies, while the guy who looked totally ordinary was dropping tens of thousands without a second thought. The other salesgirl agreed, saying their manager had taught them a lesson. You can't judge a person's spending power by how they dress. Meanwhile, Lin Shudong just stood there, clenching her fists, absolutely humiliated. Zu Leil held the bag close, smirking. She said out loud that bags are like boyfriends, the ones you snatch from someone else are always the best. She looked over at Chen Yuan, a plan forming in her mind. She decided right then and there that she had to lock this guy down. He was a big fish. And just like that, she was all over him, clinging to his arm. She started calling him husband and telling him how great he was. Seeing this was the final straw for Lin Shudong. Tears started welling up in her eyes. She completely lost it. She grabbed Chen Yuan's arm and screamed that he had gone too far. Our boy just gave her a cold smirk. He told her this was nothing, they had a long way to go. That's when the system popped up with her stats. Her favorability towards him was -10, but more importantly, it revealed the end game. If he could get a girl's favorability over 95, the counterattack would be successful, and she would become his loyal simp. With the drama over, Zu Leil leaned in close. She asked Chen Yuan if he was satisfied with her performance, wondering where he was taking her next. She was basically asking for her payment. Chen Yuan just gave a simple reply, asking where she wanted to go. His real answer was to lead her to yet another high-end designer store. The night was far from over. Inside the next store, Chen Yuan didn't even bother looking at price tags. He just pointed from one end of the display all the way to the other. He looked at the stunned saleswoman and gave a simple order. Pack up everything in the store except for 2 items and swipe the card. The clerk quickly agreed to deliver everything to his address. Watching him spend money like that, Zu Leil was completely charmed. The system chimed in, her favorability went up another 5 points. And he didn't stop there, they hit the perfume section next. Then it was on to makeup. With every swipe of the card, her favorability just kept ticking up. More clothes, more bags, the spending was endless and so were the points. Finally, loaded down with more bags than she could carry, Zu Leil looked at him, almost out of breath. She asked if he thought he'd bought enough, joking that she was running out of space for it all. Still adding up the total on his phone, Chen Yuan casually told her that if she ran out of space for the bags, it was fine, he'd just buy her a house. But this time he'd gone too far. She got nervous, saying it was just their first meeting and he was spending way too much. The system chimed in, her favorability actually dropped by 5 points. Chen Yuan immediately realized his mistake. He'd scared her. To be fair, casually offering to buy someone a house would make anyone feel uneasy. That's when the system gave him a full breakdown on Zu Leil. He learned everything: her age, her height, her favorite food, even her biggest fear, walking alone at night. Using this new information, he leaned in close. He told her the only reason he was being so impulsive was because he really liked her. Then he turned to the saleswoman and made his next move. He told her to set up a membership card and put 500,000 on it. From now on, whenever Zu Leil came to the store, she was to be shown the newest styles directly. He looked back at Zu Leil with a calm smile, explaining that the membership was just a small gift to make up for scaring her earlier. And that did the trick. Her face went red and her heart started pounding. This guy knew exactly what he was doing. He leaned in close and whispered that if she felt guilty about all the gifts, she could always offer herself as payment. She playfully pushed his face away, calling him a scoundrel. But the system chimed in again, her favorability just shot up by another 30 points. The saleswoman watched them from a distance, completely smitten. They whispered to each other about how this guy wasn't just generous, but also incredibly considerate. After a moment, Zu Leil looked at him. She asked if he wanted to buy anything for himself after spending so much on her. Our boy just shrugged and told her he didn't have any money. Hearing this, Zu Leil's eyes lit up. She took his hand, deciding it was her turn to give him a gift. She was thinking this was the perfect way to make sure her big fish didn't get away. The night was still young, and the city was lit up all around them. True to her word, she took him to a men's clothing store and started picking out new outfits for him. After that, she even took him to a salon for a haircut, staying by his side the whole time. She was already playing the part of the perfect girlfriend. When Chen Yun stepped out, the change was incredible. With a new haircut and some fresh clothes, he looked like a completely different person. And of course, the system immediately chimed in. Zu Leil's favorability went up another 5 points just from looking at him. Zu Leil was completely stunned. She couldn't believe how handsome he looked now that he was all dressed up. Her favorability jumped another 5 points. Turns out, a little bit of style goes a long way. He looked at his new clothes and haircut. He admitted this was the first time in his life he'd ever put this much effort into his appearance. And the best part, it didn't cost him a single penny. But Zu Leil didn't think it was strange at all. She leaned in close, telling him that now they were a perfect match. As the night came to an end, she told him how happy she was. She even admitted that for a few moments it really felt like she was in love. She blew him a kiss and said goodbye. Chen Yun walked back to his dorm. The system popped up, confirming his success. His favorability with Zu Leil was now at a solid 68. He walked into his room and his friends completely freaked out. One of them jumped up, demanding to know where he'd been all day and what was with the new look. Our boy just sat down, cool as ever. He calmly told them he'd been on a date with Zu Leil. His friends couldn't believe it. One of them started yelling, reminding him he couldn't even handle Lin Shudong. He told him to know his limits because Zu Leil was the top beauty of the art department. Another one of his buddies put an arm around him, trying to give him some advice. He told Chen Yun he just couldn't control women like that. It was clear none of them believed a word he said. Just as his friends were doubting him, Chen Yun got a text. It was from his ex Lin Shudong. She was trying to guilt-trip him, saying if he really disliked her, they should just unfriend each other. But our boy just smirked. He wasn't about to let her go that easily. After all, he still needed to farm her for favorability points to level up and make money. So he played along. He told her she was special to him. Predictably, she immediately hit him with a sob story, claiming she was only with her new rich boyfriend because her mom was sick and needed 50,000 for medical bills. Chen Yun didn't even hesitate. He immediately sent her the 50,000 she asked for. Miles away in her dorm room, Lin Shudong was completely floored. She couldn't believe it. She told her friend she just made up the story, but he actually sent the money. She wondered out loud if it was her new boyfriend Junkai who had sent it, but she quickly realized that wasn't possible. Junkai was too cheap to even buy her a bag. It was Chen Yun. Her friend couldn't process it, reminding her that she'd just dumped him that very day. The friend was stunned. How could this average guy she looked down on suddenly be so rich? Lin Shudong stared at her phone, her mind racing. She started to think she'd made a massive mistake. She decided she had to get to the bottom of this right now. So she just unloaded on him. A flood of messages demanding to know where he got all that money, what was going on with him and Zu Leil, and if he was secretly some rich kid all along. When he didn't answer right away, she tried to act cute, asking him to take her out to eat like they used to. A classic move to try and get him back on the hook. But Chen Yun just left her on read. The $50,000 payment just sat there, and her messages went completely unanswered. Meanwhile, Chen Yun was just looking at her texts, thinking he knew his ex was clever and manipulative. He decided he needed to play this smart, not just with her but with Zu Leil too. He wasn't worried about his ex. The real question on his mind was simple. What's the fastest, most over-the-top way to spend a ton of money on women? And then it hit him. Live streaming platforms, it was the perfect place. He immediately opened up an app called Shark Live. He landed on a stream for a girl named Xiamir. She was incredibly popular, with millions of viewers. The chat was already flooded with guys begging for her attention. The chat was a war zone of guys trying to get her attention. Someone named Lonely One Cigarette claimed he'd be her #1 fan. The other viewers just laughed, telling him the top spot cost over $1,000,000 and that he should go get a real job. Chen Yun just smirked. $1,000,000, that was nothing. He realized spending money here was way faster than buying bags. He'd come to the right place. So using the name Lonely One Cigarette, he started tapping the gift button. On screen, Xiamir smiled and made a heart with her hands, thanking him for the rocket. But that was just the start. A second later, her eyes went wide. A massive rainbow-colored rocket suddenly filled the entire screen. This wasn't just a gift, it was an absolute downpour. The chat absolutely exploded. 100 rockets. That was $1,000,000. The streamer was speechless and all the other viewers were losing their minds. Back in his dorm, Chen Yun just watched the chaos unfold. The chat was a mess of people either begging for his attention or calling him a fake. He just smirked. They were completely underestimating him. He decided it was time to give them a real shock. He didn't just send a few more, he typed in 900. And then he hit send. A tidal wave of rockets flooded the entire screen, one after another. This didn't just break the chat, it set off alarms at the company headquarters. Someone ran to tell their boss that something huge was happening. The employee burst into the office, yelling that some mystery tycoon had just spent 10 million yuan in Xiamir's channel. His boss was so shocked he spat out his drink. The boss couldn't believe it. 10 million. He wondered if it was one of their own guys or if someone was trying to launder money through their platform. The number was just that insane. Meanwhile, in the streamers' lounge, the news was spreading like wildfire. All the other streamers heard about the 10 million yuan drop. They were all scrambling to send private messages to this mystery guy, Lonely Cigarette. They knew that even a tiny fraction of that money would be more than their salaries for months. His inbox was getting absolutely flooded. But the girl who actually got the money, Zyamir, was still in total shock. She couldn't believe someone had just spent 10 million on her. She even had to pinch herself just to make sure it was real. That's when a message came through from her boss. The order was simple: lock this guy down and her commission would get a 10% boost. A grin spread across her face. She didn't need to be told. There was no way she was letting a spender this big get poached by another streamer. So she turned on the charm, sweetly thanking Brother Lonely Cigarette and asking him to send her a private message so she could make him a moderator. She even blew a kiss to the camera. The streamer was practically begging him to reply to her private messages, but Chen Yuan just laid in bed laughing to himself. He was enjoying this way too much. The next morning, things had already gotten crazy. Turns out his 10 million yuan spending spree was the #1 trending topic online. One of his roommates was shouting, telling everyone to check the news about the mystery tycoon. His roommates were going on and on about how rich this mystery guy was, wishing they had that kind of money. Chen Yuan, the guy they were talking about, was just annoyed they were being so loud. While brushing his teeth, Chen Yuan checked his system. He was confused. He'd spent 10 million on that streamer, but she hadn't been added to his relationship list. Only his ex and Zu Leil were there. He started to worry that maybe the binding had to happen in person. Did he just waste all that money? That's when he checked his private messages. His inbox had completely exploded. It looked like he'd stirred up a hornet's nest. He noticed his roommates were all heading out the door. He called out, asking why they were leaving him behind. One of them explained they were going to class. Apparently, the campus goddess Zhao Yuki was going to be there. They joked that if they waited for him, they'd miss the whole thing. The name caught his attention, Zhao Yuki. He remembered now that was the campus goddess his roommates had rushed out to see. From what he'd heard, she was on a completely different level. And there she was, Zhao Yuki, the vice president of the student union and the undisputed campus flower. Basically, she was the dream girl for every single guy at the university. On top of that, she was a master-level piano player. She was also the head of the ballet troupe and a ranked athlete in fencing. All these talents, combined with her looks, made her seem completely unapproachable. When Chen Yuan walked into the lecture hall, the girls immediately started whispering about the handsome new guy, but he wasn't paying attention to them. He was thinking about Zhao Yuki. If she was this hard to get, the system rewards must be huge. That's when his ex, Lin Shudong, spotted him. Her friend couldn't believe it was Chen Yuan, pointing out how handsome he looked. She even teased Shudong, asking if he dressed up just for her. And just like that, Shudong started blushing. She tried to remind herself she had a new boyfriend, but she was clearly confused. The system immediately lit up. Her favorability towards Chen Yuan shot up by 30 points. Chen Yuan saw the notifications and just scoffed. All it took was a change of clothes to get her attention. He couldn't believe how shallow this woman was. He immediately put his ex out of his mind. The real question was how he was going to bind the campus goddess, Zhao Yuki. His roommates were already getting excited, cheering him on to show them how he'd win over the campus goddess. But before Chen Yuan could even make a move, some other guy stood up. His friends were all hyping him up as he boasted that he was about to make the goddess fall for him. And just like that, this idiot walked right up to her desk. He leaned in and asked her to add him on WeChat. Zhao Yuki looked annoyed, but the guy sitting next to her was furious. He immediately stepped in, demanding to know what the guy thought he was doing. The suitor tried to play it cool, saying he just wanted to be friends, but the roommate wasn't having it. He grabbed the guy by the collar, calling him a punk. Turns out this was Zhao Yuki's roommate, and he looked ready to do some serious damage, holding a pen to the guy's throat and asking if he was looking to die for scheming against his friend. The poor guy stammered out a terrible excuse about wanting to join the student union. The roommate called his bluff immediately, told him to scram, and sent him flying. Zhao Yuki just sighed and tried to calm her friend down. Chen Yuan watched the whole thing, realizing that getting close to the campus goddess was going to be way harder than he thought. Her roommate was losing his mind. He couldn't believe another guy was already trying his luck, wondering when it would ever stop. But that's when Chen Yuan walked right up, phone out, ready to go. The crowd started whispering immediately. They couldn't believe how brave or stupid this new guy was. Zhao Yuki's roommate smirked. He noted that this guy was more handsome than the last one, but still mocked him, asking if he also wanted to join the student union. Chen Yuan just smiled and said he wasn't interested in the student union at all. The roommate was caught off guard. He demanded to know why then he wanted Yuki's WeChat. A confident grin spread across Chen Yuan's face. He asked if it wasn't obvious. Then, without a hint of hesitation, he made his intentions crystal clear. He was there to pursue her. Zhao Yuki was completely caught off guard. Her face went red, but she wasn't angry. She was just surprised. The entire room exploded. Everyone was shouting, completely stunned that this guy was so bold. They were all sure he was about to get shut down hard. But then a small smile appeared on her face. And just like that, she held up her phone. He'd actually done it. Meanwhile, on the other side of the room, Lin Shudong's friend leaned in. She asked if that was the same Chen Yuan who used to chase after her, wondering what was going on between them. Her boy just smirked. His friends were in absolute despair, crying their eyes out that he'd actually snatched away their goddess. But Chen Yuan knew the truth. Sometimes the simplest, most direct approach is the best one. And that's when the system chimed in. A notification popped up, confirming that the relationship was successfully bound. Zhao Yuki was now officially a target. Chen Yuan let out a quiet sigh of relief. This whole trip wasn't a waste after all. As they walked away, his friends were still buzzing. They couldn't believe he'd actually gotten Zhao Yuki's WeChat. They joked that even though he'd changed a lot, he was still a simp at heart. His buddies were already getting ahead of themselves, asking him to introduce them to other girls once he won over the campus flower. but Chen Yun just played it cool, saying they were exaggerating and that he was just a regular guy. But someone else had been listening in, and he clearly didn't like what he heard. This clown stepped forward with his crew smirking. He told Chen Yun he had some sense at least for knowing his place as a loser. Chen Yun just grinned right back at him. He shot back that accepting humiliation was the guy's expertise and that he'd be sure to learn from him. His friends immediately started to panic, thinking a fight was about to break out. The insult hit its mark. The guy completely lost it and tried to lunge at Chen Yun, screaming that he just got lucky. His friends had to physically hold him back. Chen Yun just watched, unimpressed, and called him childish. But he wasn't even paying attention to the commotion anymore. Something else had caught his eye. A woman with long white hair was walking toward them. She stopped and told Chen Yun he was slow, complaining that she'd been waiting for him for a long time. The crowd absolutely lost it. Turns out this was Zu Leil from the art college, ranked 6th on the campus beauty list. Her nickname was the Straight Guy Slayer, and she was here for Chen Yun. Chen Yun just smiled, smoothly apologizing for making a beauty wait and offering to take her to dinner. She leaned in, asking if he liked the new outfit she was wearing, the one he'd bought for her. He didn't even compliment the clothes. Instead, he told her the bag she was carrying looked the best on her. His words hit someone in the crowd hard. She just stood there, completely overwhelmed by jealousy. She asked if he was being serious, and he told her he was. And just like that, the two of them walked off together, leaving everyone else behind in the dust. The guy who tried to start a fight earlier just broke down completely. He couldn't understand what he was lacking or why he kept losing so badly. His sadness quickly turned to anger. This clown actually started wondering who could possibly have it worse than him in this situation. Suddenly, Zu Leil held out a drawing. It was a portrait of him, and she shyly told him it was a gift. She admitted that she'd stayed up all night just to finish it for him. Then she gave him a playful warning, telling him she wouldn't forgive him if he dared to just throw it away. Chen Yun was completely caught off guard. He admitted that this was the first time in his entire life a girl had ever given him a gift. Hearing that, she smiled and softly asked if he liked it. But he didn't answer, he just stared at her, his expression becoming serious. His mind was racing, trying to figure out what her real game was. He saw this whole thing as a carefully laid trap. He wondered if this was her plan all along, a bait she prepared from the moment he first spent money on her. But Chen Yun reminded himself that he wasn't that same naive guy anymore. This wasn't just a gift, it was a move in a game. Zu Leil saw his serious expression and immediately started to worry. She wondered if he didn't like the gift she'd worked so hard on. Instead of thanking her, he just stared her down and bluntly asked why she gave it to him. The question completely threw her off. She stammered, reminding him she'd stayed up all night to draw it, and asked again if he didn't like it. For a second, neither of them said anything. The tension was just hanging in the air. Then his whole attitude changed. He leaned in close with a smirk and asked her what he was supposed to do if he never got a gift this good again. He told her she'd have to take responsibility. She completely blushed, realizing he'd been messing with her the whole time. She called him a scoundrel for scaring her and tried to snatch the drawing back, but he just laughed and pulled it away, joking that he was going to keep it as a family heirloom. As she reached for it, he gently caught her wrist. He leaned in even closer and told her that compared to the gift, her eyes locking onto his preferred her. She was completely stunned, her eyes locking onto his. She couldn't help but think he was good at this. And just like that, the system chimed in. Her favorability had gone up by 5 points. A cold smirk spread across his face. He thought to himself that if she wanted to play games, she could just be a good tool for him to earn money. But just then, someone shouted Zu Leil's name. It was the same clown from before, and he looked absolutely furious. He slapped Chen Yun's hand off of her wrist, sending everyone stumbling backward from the force. This clown was absolutely losing it. He screamed at Zu Leil, accusing her of lying. She was supposed to be getting her nails done with a friend, and now he was demanding to know who this guy with her was. He kept yelling, sarcastically asking if doing nails was code for hugging some random guy. He pointed at Chen Yun, assuming he must be rich. Then this clown started whining that after chasing her for so long, she wouldn't even let him hold her hand. Chen Yun just watched him. He knew this type of guy all too well. It was like looking in a mirror at his old self. Zu Leil had enough. She snapped, demanding to know who he thought he was and telling him her dating life was none of his business. But instead of making things worse, Chen Yun just stepped forward with a calm smile. He introduced himself, then asked the guy for his name and how long he'd been chasing Zu Leil. The poor guy just answered honestly. His name was Wang Yu and he'd been at this for half a year. Chen Yun's whole expression changed. He told Wang Yu that he understood completely because he once chased a girl for 3 whole years. He explained how he'd worked 4 part-time jobs and ate nothing but cheap buns just for her. And after all that, he said, she just left him for some other guy in a fancy car. He was basically telling this dude his own future. Chen Yun looked the guy dead in the eye and told him that this kind of betrayal is what should motivate him to get better. He asked him why a great man would ever worry about finding a girl. The poor guy was actually crying, but he was fired up. He swore that he'd become strong and rich. Chen Yun told him to go back to his dorm, forget about her, and work so hard that she'd regret ever leaving him. Zu Leil was just standing there completely stunned. She couldn't believe Wang Yu was actually crying. She turned to Chen Yun and tried to explain, saying Wang Yu was just a friend and she had no idea he'd react like this. But Chen Yun just cut her off. He told her he didn't care about her past. He said that with all this drama, it seemed like she didn't respect herself, and she definitely didn't respect him. And as he said it, he ripped her drawing right in half. The pieces of paper fluttered to the ground. He told her she could keep using the card he gave her, but they shouldn't see each other again until she sorted out her messy relationships. And with that, he just turned around and walked off, leaving her standing there completely speechless. But this wasn't just an angry outburst. As he walked away, Chen Yun was thinking this was all a game. He had just made his move and now he was excited to see how Leil would respond. Meanwhile, Zu Leil just stood there completely broken. She started replaying every moment in her head. She felt like, for the first time in her life, someone actually understood her. And the worst part was she believed he genuinely liked her. She was convinced she had just messed everything up. But as Chen Yun walked away, the system chimed in. Hilariously, his whole act had worked. Leil's favorability had just gone up by 5 points. A small smile crept onto his face. He realized that sometimes you have to push back a little. It was another lesson learned. He figured he'd given Leil enough to think about for now. It was time to switch his attention to someone else. Zhao Yuki. He pulled up her contact and saw a notification. Turns out she was live streaming right now. He opened up the app and found Zhao Yuki's profile, who went by the name Kiki Online. He noticed her popularity was only at 2.7K, which seemed way too low. The second he joined the stream, he got a message. The streamer Kiki was immediately all over him, calling him Brother Yan and welcoming him. He scrolled through her messages. It was the classic playbook. She pretended to be hurt that he might not remember her, then suggested they meet up. But when he didn't respond instantly, she quickly backtracked, saying her schedule was full but promised to dance just for him tonight. But Chen Yun wasn't falling for it. He was furious. He'd already spent 10 million on this girl and gotten nothing. He thought to himself that she was just trying to trick him into sending more gifts. He might as well just give the money directly to her rival, President Zhao. Just then, a notification popped up on his screen. It announced that the streamer he was following was currently in a competition and needed support. On the stream, a big VS sign appeared. Someone in the chat announced that Kiki was being challenged to a PK and one-on-one competition. She looked a little worried, hoping it wasn't a big shot influencer. Turns out her opponent was President Zhao. Chen Yun just smiled. This was definitely going to be interesting. The chat was already going wild. One guy was congratulating someone on matching with a new girl. Hilariously, another user named Dahua claimed his wife got so mad about him watching this streamer that he actually divorced her. Of course, someone immediately called him a liar. Chen Yun watched the PK matchup begin on his phone. A nasty grin spread across his face. This was going to be fun. The battle started and Kiki was already getting destroyed. Her rival, President Zhao, was miles ahead in points. President Zhao was full of confidence. She taunted Kiki, bragging that a big spender like Brother Yan was backing her now. The chat exploded. Everyone remembered Brother Yan, the guy who dropped 10 million. Some of Kiki's own fans started abandoning her to support her rival. Meanwhile, Kiki was lost in her own thoughts, remembering how she'd played hard to get. This genius was completely convinced she had Brother Yan wrapped around her finger. That's when Chen Yun made his move. He didn't just send one gift. He sent a flood of them, multiplied over and over again. President Zhao started screaming with joy, thanking Brother Yan for the support, but the gifts weren't for her. Kiki just stared, her heart sinking. Suddenly, President Zhao's face fell. The screen was flooded with rockets, all of them for Kiki. Her score shot past 150,000 in seconds. The poor girl couldn't believe it. The screen exploded with a notification. An user named Lonely One Cigarette had just sent Kiki 1,000 rockets. Not one, not 10, 1,000. Kiki and her friend were screaming with joy. They were rich. But on the other side of the battle, President Zhao's face fell. She stared in disbelief, realizing the massive gift wasn't for her after all. And just when she thought it couldn't get worse, a staff member walked up holding a sign. It said her boss was calling and that she needed to explain what just happened. Her career was officially on the line. Kiki was completely overwhelmed. Through happy tears, she thanked Brother Yan and told everyone she had to end the broadcast for now. She needed a moment to process everything. Meanwhile, on President Zhao's channel, it was a total train wreck. The stream had ended abruptly and the chat was absolutely roasting her. They couldn't stop laughing about how she bragged about her patron, only for him to immediately fund her rival. Chen Yun just watched the chaos unfold with a nasty grin. He scoffed at the idea that any of these women could control him. Just because he gave them gifts didn't mean he belonged to them. Her boy was already thinking about his next move. But he wasn't the only one with plans for President Zhao. Miles away, at the streaming company headquarters, her boss was fuming. He'd invested a lot of money in her and this public failure was a huge problem. An employee burst into the boss's office, shouting that something big had just happened again. The boss didn't even need to ask. He slammed his fist on the desk, already knowing who was responsible. It was that lonely cigarette guy. He completely lost it when he heard the amount. Another 10 million spent in a single night. The guy was screaming, wondering if this mysterious spender was some Middle Eastern oil prince. The story then cuts to the streamer's lounge. Word of Chen Yun's spending was spreading like wildfire. A group of other streamers huddled around a phone, completely shocked. They couldn't believe he'd just dropped 10 million on some girl playing the piano. One of them was so jealous she looked like she was about to explode. Meanwhile, in another part of the city, the streamer who actually got the money was having a very different night. Her friend rushed over with a phone, telling her to look. Her live stream was now the #1 trending topic in the country. The friend was losing her mind, screaming that she was going to be an internet sensation overnight. But the streamer herself didn't look impressed at all. She scoffed at the idea, saying that chasing attention from men online wasn't a real plan for the future. She insisted that the most important thing for a woman was to have her own career and be completely independent. Her friend just laughed and told her to stop lecturing. With a grin, she got to the real point and asked if she actually knew the rich guy who was throwing all this money at her. The streamer got super defensive, insisting she had no idea who the rich guy was. Her friend just laughed it off, telling her to calm down because he was only curious. But a second later, she completely changed her tune. She decided that, just to be polite, she should probably send him a private message to say thanks. Her friend Zio Fei just stared. He couldn't believe it. He called her out, reminding her that just a minute ago she was lecturing about how women shouldn't rely on men. As the streamer pulled up the donor's profile, Zio Fei suddenly screamed. The streamer looked over, confused, and asked him what was going on. But then she saw it. Her face went pale. She stammered to Zio Fei that she might actually know this rich guy after all. She stared at the phone. The nickname was Lonely Cigarette, but the real name was Chen Yuan. Her mind started racing, trying to make sense of it all. She imagined Chen Yuan as the son of some super rich tycoon, raised in luxury but tired of the pressure. She pictured him choosing to live like a normal person just to feel free. In her mind, he was this lonely guy, always being watched and judged. And then, of course, he met the girl he loved and decided to hide his identity to win her over. She was totally convinced this was the truth. Her friend just stared at her, then asked if she'd been reading too many cheap romance novels. But she was completely lost in her own story, imagining how hard it must have been for a rich kid to pretend to be poor all this time. She shook her head. She decided she had to send him a message and thank him properly. Meanwhile, the actual Chen Yuan was just chilling after a workout. His phone buzzed. He glanced at the screen. It was a message from the streamer Zhao Yuki. The message was from Zhao Yuki. She asked if he was free and invited him to get crayfish tomorrow, saying they should meet at the school gate in the afternoon. He thought it was strange. She didn't even ask where he got the money to send all those gifts. She just jumped straight to asking him out to dinner. He decided to go. He wanted to see exactly what she was up to. The next afternoon, he headed out on his little electric scooter. As he pulled up to the gate, a fancy Audi parked right next to him, and a guy in a suit stepped out. The man glanced over and asked Chen Yuan if he was waiting for someone. He then mentioned he was there to pick up his goddaughter. Just then, two women walked up, looking around for someone. The rich guy smirked at Chen Yuan. He told him to stop staring and focus on making money, because if he didn't, guys like him would take all the beautiful women. This clown had no idea. But as Zhao Yuki looked at Chen Yuan, she wasn't thinking about money at all. She was just thinking about how handsome he was. The rich guy, completely oblivious, kept running his mouth. He laughed and asked Chen Yuan when he thought he'd ever be able to afford a car like his. He even asked Zhao Yuki if she was comfortable on that little thing. Chen Yuan didn't even look at him. He just started the scooter and sped off, leaving the clown standing there in a cloud of exhaust. The guy just stood there completely confused, watching them disappear down the road. And then this dude just collapsed. He dropped to his knees, crying his eyes out, wondering what the point of all his money was if this could still happen. She was already falling for him hard. They finally pulled up to the crayfish spot she wanted to go to. A moment later, the waitress brought out their order. 2 huge plates of spicy and garlic-flavored crayfish. Just as they were about to eat, Chen Yuan reached across the table. Zhao Yuki's mind started racing again. She was completely impressed by his manners, thinking he had the demeanor of a true noble. Turns out he was just handing her a box of wipes, telling her to be careful not to get her hands dirty. To her, this simple act of kindness was just more proof that he must have come from some fancy, well-mannered family. As Chen Yuan dug into the food, Zhao Yuki's imagination was running wild again. She was convinced he was some rich guy who chose this simple place just so she wouldn't feel pressured. To her, every little thing he did was proof that he was a gentle and refined person. In her mind, he wasn't just some guy eating crayfish. He was a prince. And just for that, the system popped up. Her favorability had just jumped by another 10 points. Chen Yuan was completely baffled. He hadn't even done anything. That's when she started peeling a shrimp for him. She held it right up to his mouth, expecting him to take a bite. She even offered to peel all of them for him. Our boy just stared back, not really sure how to react. He ended up just taking the bite. At that same moment, a few new people walked into the restaurant. One of the newcomers froze, her eyes wide with surprise. She couldn't believe it. Zhao Yuki was actually feeding Chen Yuan shrimp. Another girl watched with a nasty look on her face. She was thinking about how first it was Zu Leil and now this. She turned to the guy she was with, a blonde dude named Junkai, and told him she wanted to leave. But this clown just wrapped his arm around her. He brushed it off, saying it wasn't crowded, just full of people they knew. He grinned, adding that he loved eating in busy places. The girl just looked miserable. Meanwhile, Chen Yuan was just minding his own business, completely unaware of the drama. Suddenly, a few cards were thrown right at his face. A voice called out his name and he looked up, a little bit of blood on his lip. This clown Junkai looked down at Chen Yuan with a smirk. He offered him 500 yuan, telling him to get lost and give up his seat. The 2 huge plates of crayfish sat on the table, completely forgotten. Chen Yuan just stared back, thinking this guy was a total idiot. But this clown Junkai just kept going. He smirked and asked if 500 yuan wasn't enough, offering to add even more. Beside him, Zhao Yuki gripped her purse so hard her knuckles turned white. Chen Yuan noticed how furious she looked. He was a little confused, wondering why she was getting so worked up on his behalf. But she wasn't angry for him. She was just pissed that this random jerk was ruining what she thought was a perfect date. Junkai, completely oblivious, just pulled out his wallet to grab even more cash. But before he could throw it, someone else's hand slapped down on the money scattered on the floor. It was one of the waiters. He was on his knees, scooping up the cash. He looked up at Junkai with a greedy smile and offered to find him another table if he could just keep the money. Junkai was furious. He grabbed the waiter by the shirt, screaming at him. But before he could do anything else, a purse came flying out of nowhere and smacked him right across the face. Turns out it was the girl Junkai was with. She just gave a little oops like it was an accident. Chen Yuan just watched, completely confused by the chaos. That's when a huge shadow fell over them else's and the money hand slapped down on the scattered on the floor. A woman's voice boomed through the restaurant, accusing Junkai of using her car and her money to cheat on her. The woman who walked in looked absolutely terrifying. Junkai was on the floor, sweating bullets. He was clearly petrified. With a brutal nose, Junkai stammered out her name, Why Zioking. He asked her what she was doing there. She screamed back at him, asking how else she would have caught him cheating. This scumbag immediately started groveling. He told Zioking it was all a misunderstanding, reminding her that everything he owned came from her, so he'd never betray her. Then this absolute clown turned on the girl he was with. He grabbed her by the hair and screamed that she was the one who seduced him. The girl screamed back that he was a liar, that he'd told her he was single. Junkai screamed at her to shut up, grabbing her face hard. The poor girl was on the floor, completely stunned that he'd actually attacked her. This clown wasn't done. He raised his hand, ready to hit her again. But before his hand could land, someone grabbed his wrist, stopping him cold. It was Chen Yuan. He glared at Junkai and asked if he really wanted to make himself even more shameful by hitting a woman. That's when a system notification popped up. Lin Shudong's favorability had just jumped by 20 points. She was watching the whole thing, and somehow, seeing him defend another girl made her think he must still love her. And then came the big one. The system announced that Lin Shudong's favorability had just broken through 95 points. Our boy had successfully reversed her feelings completely, turning her into his simp. He even got a 5,000 yuan reward for it. On top of the cash, the system rewarded him with 20 strengthening points. Chen Yuan just stood there, completely baffled. He just stepped in to stop a scumbag and ended up getting a massive power-up for it.